Okay, everybody, welcome one, welcome all to the ice cold Oscars. I didn't do a what should be nominated for the 2019 Academy Awards, simply put because I couldn't compile a list that I felt happy about this year, that was really different enough from the actual Oscar list that I thought would really have any kind of impact on like a video or something that would be different from what you've already seen. But I wanted to do what should win, because I think that there are things that are going to win that shouldn't, and there are things that I want to win that won't, because the Oscars are stupid. I personally have a couple in here that aren't nominated that I think not only should have been nominated, but obviously should win, and in following the Academy's tradition, I'm going to only talk about the big awards because they're the only ones that matter, right? I want to prove a point. I want them to understand that if you're not going to show cinematography and editing, I hope the Academy members understand if a movie isn't shot or a movie isn't edited, you don't actually have a movie, my friend. And live action shorts are just as important as feature. Anyway, what do I know, right? I'm just a 17-year-old kid who clearly has more respect for filmmaking than these idiotic members of the Academy. So starting out with Best Adapted Screenplay, I would hand this one over to If Beale Street Could Talk, which is actually a nominee this year. It will be handed to BlacKkKlansman, more than likely, but personally, I think If Beale Street Could Talk delivered a much more nuanced screenplay. I'm going to talk a little more in original screenplay about character development and work and what I think is really impressive in that, because I do think they have a lot of really strong elements of that in here in terms of character setup, but I think what really works about this movie for me is the dialogue, the natural-esque dialogue that I think Barry Jenkins also nailed with Moonlight, and which they did award him for that, but for whatever reason this movie has been sorely overlooked throughout this entire award season, which really baffles me and bothers me, to be 100% honest. Everything that characters say and do in this film has 110% a point. Whether it plays into the story that we're watching, whether it plays into the characters moving from one point to another, or the actual messages in which they're trying to convey. It's easy for a film like this to be very down your throat, to really be cramming messages and social commentary and all that other stuff that you don't particularly want to be just out there when you're watching a movie. The idea with incorporating political elements into a film is that you should be driving home from the movie and you should be going, oh my god, like I didn't even think about that. In my opinion, that's what Get Out did so well, because you're sitting during Get Out and kind of in your head you're just watching this horror film, but the genius of that screenplay is on the drive home and in the coming days you're going, oh my god, I didn't even realize that little touch. I didn't even realize that little line of dialogue. I didn't realize that little element to the film that contributed so much to my overall feeling. And I think Beale Street really nails that. Obviously not particularly as a horror film. Someone's walking up the stairs. They're stomping up the stairs, actually. Not particularly as a horror film, but as a drama film, and as a character study amongst this entire family and those around them. And I think the dialogue scenes are also perfect in terms of just how these individuals actually react amongst one another, and also just in general how that contributes to overall what you're getting when you walk out of this movie, which is just a stab to the heart in many different ways, but also this feeling of hope, which giving you both has to be one of the hardest things in the world, but I think Barry Jenkins accomplished that amongst many other things. Best Original Screenplay, I also have a nominee in this one, and this one I actually do think has a pretty good shot at winning. I have my boy, The Favorite, for this one, right over here. I think that The Favorite sort of speaks for itself in terms of its script. I know Green Book is kind of a favorite to win this category as well, but Green Book has a lot more just general noticeable issues when it comes to the script, and I kind of think that The Favorite almost has a perfect screenplay, because not only is the dialogue phenomenal, which it is, I mean it ranges from being hysterical to just downright kind of disturbing and gross, and to make that shift seamlessly is one of the most impossible things to do as a writer. I speak as someone who wants to be a screenwriter at some point as well as a director, and I know how difficult of a task that is. It's damn near impossible. But I really accredit this screenplay when it comes to the character work, because they develop this triangle of Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, and Rachel Weisz, and they set it up with such ease and subtlety and nuance to then develop it completely, where you're almost turning the triangle and turning it time and time again as the movie continues and carries on.
None for the Queen. What? Well, you cannot have hot chocolate. Your stomach, the sugar inflames it.
Abigail, hand me that cup.
Do not.
I'm sorry, I do not know what to do.
And I have no idea how they managed to do this without me even noticing it. You don't realize that your allegiance to characters is shifting one scene after another throughout the movie, and that is a result of just this perfect development of characters. Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz in particular are two completely different characters by the end, and every little thing that happens to them, every scene, especially the dialogue interactions between the two of those characters, you begin to understand how that actually happened. It's an easy thing for screenwriters to just go, oh, you know, this sad thing happened and now the character is sad, or this thing happened to make the character angry and now the character is angry. But to be subtle about it and to make an audience not even realize like how much of an impact that this event or this line of dialogue would have had on a character, for them to wind up at a point B that's completely different from the point A that they began at, is one of the most perfect things that you can do as a writer. I will never understand how anybody can do that, especially for these two writers who are not like particularly well known in Hollywood and are finally starting to receive some credit. You also have Olivia Colman's character, who is constantly bouncing back and forth between two different elements, whether she is finally receiving some element of happiness or if she's conflicted in this Emma Stone versus Rachel Weisz battle. It's sort of interesting how her viewpoint manages to match that of the audience. It's difficult to succeed in having a character be reflective of what the audience is seeing, because you have to accurately write the character, and then you have to accurately predict what the audience is feeling at that time, and this is something that The Favourite does flawlessly, and as a result, I would 110% hand the original screenplay Oscar to them, and I think the Oscars might as well. Best Supporting Actress. I do have a nominee for this one, because God knows that this category is just up in fucking flames. Personally, and I know people will say that now I have bias because I predicted Amy Adams for Supporting Actress to win, because I do genuinely have reasons why I think that she might, but she is my pick for should win Supporting Actress this year. I actually think this category in and of itself is pretty strong at the Oscars, I think, with some weak categories this year. This one's pretty tough. You have 5 really strong, standout supporting performances, and the idea of a supporting performance is that when you're on screen, you really have to take it. You have to own the film in the moments that you're on screen. And doing that on top of Christian Bale's Dick Cheney, which was damn near flawless in my opinion, and being able to sort of step over that and say, no, you know, this ain't your scene, this is going to be mine. Because I think that has a lot to do with the character of Lynn Cheney. Whenever she was with him, she was sort of his point man. Like, she was, you know, the one saying, you're not going to fuck up. You know, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this right. It's very reminiscent of House of Cards, which is terrifying because House of Cards you want to never happen, and Vice is a fucking true story. But Amy Adams is a powerhouse in this film, man. The screen presence that she has, in my opinion, is unrivaled in comparison to these other performers, because Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone share so much of what they're doing together, and they both do it brilliantly, but I think that it's their dynamic that really brings it home, and oftentimes when I see a supporting performance, I just want to see them steal the scene, as I sort of said, and I think Amy Adams does that better than any of these other performers. This is a completely different performance for her. I think this is some of the most versatility she's ever shown. She was unrecognizable in this movie for me, especially coming hot off of like the DC Universe shit. It's really, really great to see her return to form, because we all know that she's a spectacular actress, and I've personally never really seen her play a villain, I guess, but she is really an antagonist in this movie. She manages to just be vile and almost difficult to watch at times, sometimes more evil than Dick Cheney. And to pull that off in a film completely centered around the fact that these people were awful, and like mainly that Dick Cheney was awful, and whether you like the film or not is, out of the question, because I personally thought it was okay. But I think that that's something really difficult to do, and I think there are very few performers out there that could do it, and I think Amy Adams kicked ass at doing it. Best Supporting Actor, for this one I have two. Actually, I'm cheating on this one. I'm picking two from the same film, because I think one of these individuals has received a lot of talk, and the other one got none, and I think that that's sort of unfair, and I think that they are both completely pivotal. They remind me a lot of Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz. I was close to picking Sam Elliott for this, because similarly to Amy Adams for me, I think he does manage that scene-stealing element. I think he's got the gravitas, and he's got just sort of this aura about him that brings all the attention to him, and he manages to be so subtle in the film, but also so emotional that he's almost the core of it at times. But I ended up going with a different pick, one film that has been completely overlooked by the Oscars, which is very surprising to me. But I'm going with Daniel Kaluuya and Brian Tyree Henry from Widows. These guys are kind of the opposite ends of a coin, but by that same token, they're both on the coin, if that makes sense. Like, they share a common theme, but they're also, in a sense, completely different. You have Brian Tyree Henry, who's sort of the political and, like, deal with things with words element of this villain. And then you have Daniel Kaluuya, who is just, I'm going to fucking shoot you in the head. And they are both utterly terrifying in completely different and respective manners. Daniel Kaluuya, a lot earlier, was getting a lot of talk for this film before it just kind of withered away, and I think that that was very well deserved, because every scene he's in, you feel sick to your stomach. That's a very difficult thing to achieve as an actor. Most of us probably wanted to go, oh look, it's the guy from Get Out. But instead we were going, this guy's about to fucking destroy someone's day. He puts on a lot of reminiscent elements of Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men, where he shows up and you're just terrified for every character, whether you like the character or not. You understand what's about to happen, and that is screen presence. And I think Brian Tyree Henry achieves this as well, but in a different manner. When he shows up, you also know you are in for something. And his dialogue and his way of delivering dialogue is fucking beautiful to me. He's had a year, man. I really did not know him before this year. I knew he was in Atlanta, which I haven't watched. But bouncing from this and then over to Beale Street Could Talk, and I know he's in one other thing that I'm forgetting right now. Spider-Man. He was in Spider-Man. But he is genuinely a brilliant actor, and I don't think that one villain works without the other. It's not like a No Country for Old Men, where Javier Bardem is just, I want this money and I'm going to kill everyone I can to get it, whoever gets in my way. Daniel Kaluuya is the weapon, and Brian Tyree Henry is aiming the weapon. And the two of their dynamic is so flawless, in my opinion, that I wouldn't be able to choose one or the other. But they were the ones out of the films I saw this year that really stood out to me as being just an absolutely impeccable supporting performance duo. Leading actress. If you followed my channel at all, you know I'm relatively upset that this individual wasn't nominated. It's tough for me not to give it to Olivia Colman, I admit.
Look at me! Look at me! How dare you! Close your eyes!
She really brought something to the table that I wasn't anticipating, and from the trailers you just kind of think, oh, she's going to be really funny, and she is really funny, but she's also got so much more to her, and she's so grounded, and she's kind of the one that you really care for throughout the entire film. But I gotta give it to Toni Collette for Hereditary. I know people are accusing her of overacting, which I couldn't disagree with more. I think she's at the perfect level of acting. She has to go through so many stages of character that I just don't understand how a performer is capable of doing each without any kind of issue. She has to go from being just a mom and a comforting mom and, you know, someone who's there for her son and her daughter, to somebody that's being completely driven insane by themselves, in a sense, by this paranoia and these terrifying elements surrounding her. You manage to shift your allegiance completely to supporting her to away from her by the end of the film. You don't know what you want out of this character. You don't know where you want her to end up. And I find it difficult to discuss this performance because she's just brilliant. She just kills it in this movie. And she's pretty much the sole reason it works. I don't see any other actress playing this part that would deliver the same oomph that she does. Because she just does it. And no one else could do it. It's her film, and she owns it. People talk a lot about Alex Wolff, or the dad and the sister, and the reason you don't think about them as much is because of how amazing Toni Collette is. I remember seeing this scene and going, just give it to her. Just hand her the Academy Award.
Don't you swear at me, you little shit! Don't you ever raise your voice at me! I am your mother!
It's so nuanced. It's so layered. There's so much going on that she has to keep in mind while delivering every single line of dialogue. Her facials are fantastic. You really get this idea of an individual being driven insane. And there's so much that she's asked to do as a performer that's just people. I've acted, and I don't think people realize how difficult some of that stuff is. Like when the light, she watches. Spoiler alert: she watches someone burn, and then she's standing there in complete terror, and something hits her, and her face just instantly switches to just this like flat, and that people don't understand how difficult that is. You sit there and you go, oh, I could do that. No, you can't. All right, I know lead actor I'm gonna get some flack on, but I still feel this way after seeing every movie that I saw this year, and the viewpoint has not changed for me. I know people think I'm going to pick Christian Bale. I'm not. I'm also not going to pick Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody. And please relax. I think they're both great. I really do. I think they both deliver powerhouse performances that kind of make both of the movies. Because I think both of those movies are not very good. And I think that they are the reason that they're at the very least watchable. So, there you go. But I'm actually going to pick Bradley Cooper for A Star is Born. He is the performance that has sort of transcended this award season for me. Bradley Cooper is a very talented actor, and he has proven that time and time again. There was a period, I think, where he was nominated for an Oscar for about 3 years in a row for incredibly different performances each time, and he nailed it every single time. But in my opinion, this is far and away his best. I found myself unbelievably impressed with what he was able to do with a character that's been done before that he had to find a way to make his own, and he does that flawlessly. Truth be told, the reason I'm picking him is I just believed him. I believed him more than I believed any of the other performers. There were times in Bohemian Rhapsody where I saw Rami Malek. There were times in Vice where I saw Christian Bale. I can't remember an instance in this film where I saw Bradley Cooper. I was seeing Jackson Maine. It shows a lot that I remember his name. Believe me, I probably wouldn't if this performance didn't stick with me. I don't remember Lady Gaga's name. I have no fucking clue what her name in that movie was. Every little character thing he incorporates, because he's the director too, and there's no one telling him how to do this performance. It's all him. This is all his vision and his idea of what this character is. So the little dialect that he gives him, and I know that, the where he's from doesn't work, but I understand why they did it, because he's got to sound like Sam Elliott, whatever, that horseshit. They could have just written something different, but that's a screenplay problem, not a fucking acting problem. But every dialect choice, every little physical element, the way that he talks to Lady Gaga, and the way that he talks to other characters, and the difference between those things, they're so little, but they're so noticeable. And it adds so much to this film that's completely character-centric. The idea is that you're driven on this journey between these two characters. And if you don't have those little elements to it, that relationship completely falters in and of itself. And he manages to be the heart of it because he is ultimately a large reason that it goes wrong. He portrays alcoholism in a realistic and respectful fashion, in my opinion. It works. It's done well. And again, I just lose Bradley Cooper in this performance. That's the kind of leading performance that I love. And when you're up against two actors who have to do that, who have to completely be real life people, and sometimes they fail at that, and you manage to succeed at that while playing a fictional character, that's worthy of an Oscar in my opinion. I've decided to move the set back because there are people obnoxiously stomping around upstairs and talking, and that set is a lot closer to the door, so you can hear it. Next year, I won't be living here, so we probably won't have that problem anymore. Next year, 6 months, I won't be living here, so we probably won't have that problem anymore. Anyway. Best Director. Now, this is one where people are going to lay into me, because I'm not giving it to Alfonso Cuarón. And I don't know how to describe this without it sounding like I don't like Roma, which I absolutely loved Roma. It's pretty high up on my top 10 list. I think that there were moments in which Cuarón was a little bit style over substance. In particular, the first hour of the film. Because what I noticed about it in terms of walking out is how much the movie grows on you. In that first hour, you are kind of bored, and I don't care what film snob you are, because I'm one. You don't fucking lie to yourself. You were a little bored in that first hour. Because then everything in its second hour really falls into place, and everything comes together, and you realize how brilliant the direction is, but don't lie to yourself and don't lie to me, okay? I'm gonna do it. Look, I think action films are very overlooked when it comes to the Academy Awards. Because for whatever reason, they're just set aside in this other category, right? What the hell? I think, and that was the idea of the best popular film category, was, hey, here you go for all you action fans and you superhero fans, here's your category. I was like, why don't you fuck yourself? But I think Mission Impossible Fallout is an achievement in filmmaking. Action movies are a good 70% of what people see a year, and probably of what comes out in the year. And I think that this movie sets a new standard for what we're looking for out of action films. It tells us that dedication and attention to detail and just being willing to do absurd things to deliver an exhilarating thrill ride is important. And sometimes the Oscars do recognize that, like when Christopher Nolan was nominated for Dunkirk, who makes an hour and 50-minute long anxiety attack. And Christopher McQuarrie has made a 2.5-hour roller coaster into a film. And he does it not just in showing cool action, but in showing it and conveying it and choreographing it and directing it in a beautiful and phenomenal fashion. And I'm gonna hand him my fucking Oscar, and you can't stop me. Just the Halo jump scene. Imagine being a director and saying, we're gonna strap an IMAX camera to a camera guy and you're going to jump out of a plane. And you're going to do this in one take. That is direction. That is somebody who has absolute dedication to his craft. Because this movie is a craft. Yeah, there are stupid things about this movie. People roll around in helicopters that should have blown up 20 minutes ago. But it doesn't matter because it's so well done. And I don't care if you disagree with me on this. Because I think he pulls off the best direction job of the year. And I think people are going to be scratching their heads as they write action movies going, how do we do this like Mission Impossible Fallout did? How can we be like Christopher McQuarrie as an action director? And I don't quite think anyone, other than maybe someone like David Leitch, who is not a good story director really, but he's a great action director, maybe he could pull it off. But Christopher McQuarrie gets both right. And I can't wait for the next two films that he's attached to, and I would give him my Oscar. And my Best Picture award. This is obviously going to go to the film I liked the most this year, so if you've seen my top 10 list of the year, you already know what this is. And it's The Favorite. And I've sort of talked about why I love it as a film in its writing particularly, which I think is easily one of its strongest points. But its direction is perfect. It's so stylistic, and it's so unique, and it's so interesting. And it really takes this genre that's grown tired and has become boring to general audiences and gives it spunk and gives it something to be enjoyed by all-around audiences. And that's a really tough thing to do with a period piece. It's something that movies like Amadeus did, or Barry Lyndon did, and I think that this movie is going to join their ranks in some time, as it's given years to simmer, and it will be viewed as kind of unfortunate that it didn't win the Best Picture Oscar, even though Roma is, you know, pretty damn near flawless. But it's a movie where everything comes together, every little element, because the cinematography complements the direction, the performances are all brilliant, from the main three, from Nicholas Hoult, all across the board, they're fantastic. The cinematography, like I said, is beautiful, the production design, the costume design, the sound work, the editing is flawless, it's brilliant stuff. The pacing is great, it's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching. It's got everything you want out of a film like this, and it's Best Picture to me. It's the best movie of the year. That's my answer. Anyway, that's it for this video. That's what I think should win at the 2019 Academy Awards. I got a couple more videos coming your way before the Oscars. I'm going to talk about the technical categories, what I think will win and should win. I am going to do a video of that probably early next week, and then I want to do my ranking Best Picture nominees probably right before the Oscars, like probably next Friday. You'll see that video, or next Thursday. But those will be the last videos before the Academy Awards. I will be live streaming my reaction to those, as I've done with all the other award ceremonies, so please tune in for that. I really appreciate all the support that I've been receiving. The channel keeps growing and growing immensely, so thank you guys so much for the support. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you all next time.